Hello everybody, we are coming at you as we are doing the series review of the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and of course this one just wrapped up here, so let's make sure to get on into it. In the first game we saw this being a series where the Maple Leafs were expected to put in work on the battered Tampa Bay Lightning. Instead, Tampa Bay took an early 3-0 lead in this game, and a lot of Leafs fans were unhappy, just like my dog right next to me that you might hear on the mic sighing. Not to worry though, as the Leafs responded with 2 goals of their own in the second to make this a close game yet again. Unfortunately, Braden Point ended up spreading things out a bit with a goal of his own to make it 4-2 Tampa Bay. Later on, we saw Michael Bunting be involved with his elbow incident there, and he faced a game misconduct as well as a 3-game suspension for games 2 through 4 of the series. Didn't end up getting put back into the lineup until game 6, the final game of this series, and it all fell apart in general for the home team, with it being 6-2 at the end of the second period. I won't add too much more onto this for this first game because ultimately the Bolts did win 7-3, but this is about the worst way you could start a series if you are Toronto, considering how things have gone for them in years past. If Game 1 was Toronto's nightmare, then Game 2 was Toronto's daydream, as things were totally different. As they got a lead, they were able to score early and often and never really took their foot off the gas. In the first period, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares scored the only goals of that period as Toronto took a 3-0 lead, kind of the opposite of what we saw in Game 1 where Tampa had the 3-0 lead after 1. Ian Cole did get the Lightning on the board halfway through the second, but the Maple Leafs responded with 3 straight goals of their own as they led 6-1 after 2, a total turnaround, just kind of what we saw too last year where one team would really beat up on the other one, especially early in the series if I remember correctly. Then in the final frame, Corey Perry did have a limited comeback for the team as he scored a goal. It was 6-2, but John Tavares scored on the power play to make it a hat trick for himself. And then of course the team ended up winning 7-2 over their rivals, putting up 7 goals on Andrei Vasilevsky, and to be able to even up the series heading down to Florida. Games 3 and 4 are where things get really crazy here. The first period didn't scream crazy as both sides scored 2 goals apiece. Darren Radish was able to score in the second to give the Lightning a 3-2 lead, and with just under 2 minutes to play, there was the same score. It just stayed there, nothing crazy. But the beautiful thing about playoff hockey is you never really know what's going to happen next, and that is when Ryan O'Reilly scored a goal with a minute left in the game to send this one in overtime, a game Toronto probably should have lost. And then it was another Riley, this one being Morgan Riley, who scored in overtime for the Maple Leafs, who end up winning this game to take a 2-1 series lead. Again, they probably should be down 2-1 instead of having the lead, but that is fantastic for them. Game 4 may just be the craziest game of this series. Why? Well, the Lightning grabbed a 2-0 lead in the first, and so you're thinking they're going to be able to even up this series, and actually ended up to be up in the second at 1 point 4-1, and they're hoping, again, try to get this thing even, go into Toronto and try to win that one, and actually this looked kind of achievable. They're up 4-2 halfway through the third, and then Austin Matthews scored a goal. No big deal, or I should say they were up 4-1, and then Austin Matthews scored the first goal, and then a few minutes later he scored another goal on the power play to make it 4-3. No big deal again because you're still having a 1-goal lead. And then Morgan Riley, the overtime hero, scores another goal for Toronto with less than 4 minutes to play, making it 4-4 before finally Alex Kerfoot ends up getting the overtime game winner for the Maple Leafs, seemingly out of nowhere, as in a normal series Tampa Bay should be in the lead of this 3-1 and should be 1 game away from advancing to the second round. Instead, they are 1 game away from elimination. Game 5, we have the Maple Leafs playing in Toronto, hoping to win in front of their home crowd. Of course, they haven't advanced past the first round since the 2004 season, so it's got to be here. It's got to be in front of the fans. It's got to be special, right? Especially after all the heartbreak they've went through. No, it's not been the case here, as Toronto did not end up winning this game, as John Cooper's guys were down 1-0 early after a Morgan Riley goal, but didn't trail the rest of the game. It was close at 1 point, but Alex Killorn was able to get an empty netter to make it 4-2. Tampa survived another day. They get to go back home and they get to try to push this one to 7 games, and they are hoping, of course, to go back to Toronto, kind of like with Minnesota hoping to get back to Dallas. That didn't happen, but of course we know how this ended too. And then, of course, we just saw Game 6 here. This was a winner go home. I don't really know how far you'd have to go if you're the Tampa players, as it is in Tampa Bay. But we didn't see a goal in this one until late in the game with Austin Matthews, Leafs legend, scoring this one, the first one to open it up nearly 34 minutes into the affair. Steven Stamkos scored just his second of the round to tie things up, and then we got overtime. I'm not exactly sure because I wasn't able to watch the game because it was on TBS. It will be on tomorrow, so I'll be able to check it on the replay, but it looks like John Tavares might have had his skate get hit by the puck and then it go in. Doesn't matter. The hometown hero, the Toronto man that was brought over from New York to be part of this turnaround for Toronto, ends up getting the game-winning goal as the Maple Leafs are headed to the second round. So for Tampa Bay, this ends their run of 3 straight appearances in the Stanley Cup final and makes their fans feel devastated because first round exits are not easy to deal with, and for a team like this, they're not used to it. But you know, just kind of with the matchup that they got and with the injuries they faced, stuff like that throughout the year, that they were probably going to be in a hard spot to try to win this series regardless of whether or not the Leafs had all this playoff failure in the recent seasons. As for Toronto, it's party time. While this group probably knows that this is not the end goal, this is something that they can say is a fruit of their labor. They've had a lot of issues with closing out series over the past few seasons. They've had a lot of issues just kind of getting through the media and the scrutiny and dealing with all the fan anger, but right now they can say that they are alive and they are doing something that no other Toronto team has done in nearly 20 years, which is going on to the second round. And we will see how far this Leafs teams could go because again, this is a very good club that could hoist the Stanley Cup. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this series? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video and subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe, have a great night, and you go with hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.